Okay, now the second thing we're going to talk about today is the Pythagorean theorem. It's a very famous and very useful theorem in mathematics, and it's about right triangles. So whenever you have a triangle where one of the angles is a right angle, a square 90-degree angle, that makes it a right triangle. And so the longest side of the three sides of the triangle is the one that's across from that right angle. And we call that the hypotenuse. And then the other two sides that are shorter, we call those the legs of the triangle. And the Pythagorean theorem says that in any right triangle, if you take the two legs, the two shorter sides, and square them and add those squares together, that's equal to the length of the hypotenuse squared. So it's traditional to label the sides A, B, and C, with C the hypotenuse and A and B the legs. And then the Pythagorean theorem says that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. For example, here's a right triangle where the two legs have lengths 4 and 3, and the hypotenuse has a length of 5. So 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9, and if you add those together, 4 squared plus 3 squared, 16 plus 9, that's equal to 25. Meanwhile, the hypotenuse has length 5, and 5 squared is also 25. So A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And this is useful because it means that if you have a right triangle and you know how long any two of the sides are, you can figure out how long the third side is. So we're going to be doing that in the examples that make up the rest of this video. Okay, find the length of the missing side. Here we have a right triangle, and it's got two of the sides labeled as being 4 centimeters and 9 centimeters long. Now here's the right angle, and the side that we don't know that we're trying to find is the side that's across from that right angle. It's the hypotenuse. Since this is a right triangle and we're working with the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Let's get that in mind. And let's fill in the numbers 4 and 9 for the two sides that we do know, the A and the B. So 4 squared plus 9 squared equals C squared. By the way, it doesn't matter which one of these we call A and which one we call B, but it does matter which one we call C. C is always the hypotenuse, which is always the longest one of the three sides, the side that's across from the right angle. And here, that's the one that we don't know. We do know the A and the B, 4 and 9, so we put in those numbers. And those numbers are getting squared. So the next thing we do is work out what that is. 4 squared is 16, and 9 squared is 81. So now we're looking at 16 plus 81 equals C squared. Okay, next thing to do would be to add those two numbers together. 16 plus 81 adds up to 97. So now this says C squared equals 97. And now we do kind of the reverse of what we were doing. We were going from a square root to just something without a square root by squaring. We undid square roots by squaring. Now we're going to undo the squaring by taking square roots. So we're going to take square roots of both sides of this equation. C, the square root of C squared would just be C, equals the square root of 97. So we went from C squared equals 97 to C equals the square root of 97. And if you get your calculator and ask it what the square root of 97 is, hey calculator, what is the square root of 97? It shows up as 9.848857802, but that's approximately 9.8. So sometimes we want the exact answer, in which case I just leave it as the square root of 97. And sometimes we want to know, well, approximately how many centimeters is that? What's the decimal approximation that the calculator gives? And in this case, that would be about 9.8 centimeters. So if here to here is 9 centimeters, here to here is a little bit longer than that. It's almost, but not quite 10. It's about 9.8 centimeters. Okay, next example. Here we have a right triangle. This side is 7.1 feet. This side is 12.3 feet. And then this side we don't know. That's what we're trying to find, the length of the missing side. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This time the hypotenuse is one of the ones that we do know. So we're going to be putting in the number 12.3 for c. And we're going to put in the number 7.1 for a. And then b is the missing side that we're trying to find. So 7.1 squared plus b squared equals 12.3 squared. Notice how the hypotenuse, the longest side across from the right angle, is 12.3, so I made sure to put the number 12.3 in place of the c. Now, 7.1 squared is 50.41, and 12.3 squared is 151.29. You can do that on your calculator either with the special squaring button or by just putting in 7.1 times 7.1. Now we subtract 50.41 from both sides to get the b squared by itself. So b squared equals 151.29 minus 50.41 comes out to 100.88. Now to go from b squared to b, we take square roots. B would be the square root of 100.88. And my calculator tells me that that's approximately 10.04. So this missing side has a length of approximately 10.04 feet. Next example, a spotlight is mounted on the eaves of a house 12 feet above the ground. A flower bed runs between the house and the sidewalk, so the closest a ladder can be placed to the house is 5 feet. How long of a ladder is needed so that an electrician can reach the place where the light is mounted? So look at the picture here. We've got a right triangle going on here, and the ladder makes up the longest side, which is the hypotenuse of that right triangle. So the other two sides are 12 feet and 5 feet, and the missing side, the hypotenuse, we're trying to find out how many feet long that has to be. So here's our Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. The one we do not know is the hypotenuse. So we leave that as c, and we put in the numbers 12 and 5 for a and b. 5 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. Now we can go ahead and do the squaring. 5 squared would be 25, 12 squared would be 144, so 25 plus 144 equals c squared. Now add those two numbers together. When you add up 25 plus 144, you get 169. So c squared equals 169, and to go from c squared to c, we take the square root. So c would be the square root of 169, and that comes out to be exactly 13. So that's the answer. The ladder has to be 13 feet long. Okay, one more example. A wire is to be attached to support a telephone pole. Because of surrounding buildings, sidewalks, and roadways, the wire must be anchored exactly 15 feet from the base of the pole. Telephone company workers have only 30 feet of cable, and 2 feet of that must be used to attach the cable to the pole and to the stake on the ground. How high from the base of the pole can the wire be attached? So again, we have a right triangle here. The telephone pole makes up one side of the triangle. The ground from the base of the pole to where the wire is staked out makes up another side, and then the wire itself is another side. Which of those sides is the hypotenuse? That's right, it's the wire. It's this side here. And that is, well, which one of those are we trying to find? The question is, how high from the base of the pole can the wire be attached? So we're trying to find how far it is from here up to here. We know that this should be 15 feet. And it isn't labeled in the picture, but if you look at the words, it says that the cable has to be, well, they have 30 feet of cable, but 2 feet of that has to be used to attach the cable to the telephone pole and to the stake on the ground. So that leaves 30 minus 2, or 28 feet for the part of the cable that connects the ground to up here on the pole. So that's the hypotenuse. That's 28 feet. Here to here is 28 feet. And since that's the hypotenuse, that has to go in for C. So when we fill in the numbers that we have, 15 squared plus, we don't know what this is, so we'll leave it as B squared equals, the hypotenuse was 28, so 28 squared. 15 squared plus B squared equals 28 squared. We filled in the two numbers we had for the two sides of the triangle we knew, and we left the third side as B because that's what we're trying to find. Now, 15 squared is 225, and 28 squared is 784. So now 225 plus B squared equals 784. What do we do now? What do we do to both sides of this equation? Subtract the 225 on both sides, and we get B squared equals, well, 784 minus 225 comes out to 559. Now, how do we go from B squared to just B? By taking square roots. So B equals the square root of 559, and my calculator tells me that's approximately 23.64. So we have to go up to a height of about 23.64 feet above the ground. That's how high up from the base of the pole to attach the wire, up at a height of 23.64 feet.